Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rowan Iden. Welcome to Voting 101, Making Your Vote Count, a student interview with Kitsap County Auditor Paul Andrews. The focus of our program today will be on becoming an informed voter and making your vote count. This interview is being produced by the League of Women Voters of Kitsap County and being recorded by Bremerton-Kitsap Access Television. The League of Women Voters was founded over 100 years ago in the days of the women's suffrage movement. We envision a democracy where everyone has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. We are nonpartisan, but are always working on vital issues of concern to members of the public. The League welcomes both men and women to join. Again, my name is Rowan Iden. I am a senior at North Kitsap High School in Paulsville, Washington.
Hi, my name is Alejandra Pulido, and I am a senior at Bremerton High School in Bremerton, Washington. And I'm here to introduce Elizabeth Blandon. She has worked in the education field for 20 years, high school English. She's currently a cultural competence and equity trainer for the Central Kitsap School District, as well as through the consulting firm New Face, New Ways, which she co-owns with her husband, J.D. Sweet.
Hi, I'm Alyssa. I go to Vashon High School. I'm a junior, and I live in Port Orchard. I'm introducing Paul Andrews. As Kitsap County Auditor, Paul Andrews oversees elections in Kitsap County, as well as document recording, payroll for the county and other governmental agencies, county finances, and the county's licensing sub-agency. Prior to being elected auditor, Paul spent more than 25 years as an IT professional, managing big data, focusing on modernization, transparency, and accessibility while safeguarding sensitive records. He has a building design degree, is a graduate of Leadership Kitsap, and is skilled in LEAN management practices. He and his wife, Carol, are the parents of 2 college-age children and live in Port Orchard. Okay, moving on to the questions. Our first part is, who is Paul Andrews, his background, what kind of stuff does he do? So my question is, what does the auditor have to do with voting?
The auditor is the top election official in the county, and we're responsible for administration and tabulation of all elections. We hold those for cities and special purpose districts, as well as county, state, and federal elections. And so our job is to manage the voter database and then create all of the election materials and get those out to the voters and take them back in and tabulate them and produce the results.
Mr. Andrews, how did mail-in voting get started in the state of Washington?
It's a progression, and in all jurisdictions where they're working their way towards it. So first, it starts with excuse absentee voting. So you a lot of states, you have to bring a note from your doctor. You have to give them some excuse as to why you can't vote during the election time. And from excuse, then it transitions into a limited access where maybe some elections you can do vote by mail and others you still need an excuse. Then it goes to the no excuse absentee ballot or voting, where it doesn't require anything other than just to say, I'd like to do that. And then as your population grows with the number of people that are participating in no excuse absentee voting, once you reach about 60% of your voters doing that, you're effectively a mail-in county or state. And at that point, then it just takes a legislative action to make the entire function be all by mail-in voting. So that's what we did here, and that's what several other states are in the process of going that way now. There's 5 states in total that have all mail-in voting, and we've been doing it here for about 10 years.
Thank you.
Kind of said about mechanics of voting. What does Washington do to prevent voter fraud, and how common is voter fraud?
Voter fraud isn't really that common at all. Washington has a lot of safeguards in place when we do an election to assure that who we send a ballot out to is who we receive it back from before we count it. And so prior to an election, we identify all of the eligible voters that are going to be voting. We set them up in the system so that when we send out the ballots, the machine is looking for ballots to be returned by a certain set of individuals. We manually we'll check signatures against the signatures that we have on file to confirm that the signature matches. If it doesn't, we advance that to further checking before we actually reach out to the voter and ask them to confirm the signature we have on file. And then if everything checks out fine, that ballot moves into our counting process. We use barcodes to manage our elections. So all of the envelopes are barcoded. So we know when it comes in, the ballot comes into our office, it's scanned through a machine and it can validate whether or not that the ballot envelope is correct. Our machine weighs the weight of a ballot as well as the thickness of a ballot to confirm that the contents inside are what we're expecting to find. A lot of times we'll have people that in the past more so where they would try to save postage. And so they would put 2 ballots from their household into a single envelope. But that creates problems because we only have 1 signature on the envelope to validate against. So we have a series of protocols that our machine goes through to validate the envelope before we sign it. And then, like I say, those barcodes help us identify who the voter is. And then after the ballot has actually been confirmed and opened, the barcode is also used by our scanning equipment to make sure, one, that it's the correct ballot for the election, but 2, we have several different ballot styles in every election. So for this election, we only have 7 different ballot styles. So depending on where you live in the county, you're going to vote for different things. And so our machine needs to know by barcode where where it should be reading for the results for those elections. On the fraud side, the system that we use to manage the voters in the state it's used by all the counties, and it allows us to track the status of a voter regardless of where they live. So now with same-day voter registration and the functions that we have to perform, we can have a person show up in our office on election day and say that they want to register to vote in Kitsap County. We can look them up and see where they were previously registered and if they voted. If they have not voted, we can actually go in and suspend the ballot that was issued by whatever county they were moving from, and then we can issue them a new ballot. So we reduce fraud by being able to manage what happens with the ballots from the time that they leave whoever's office until they come back. Now, if that person wants to register to vote in our county, but they've already voted in whatever county they came from, we can see that, and we just won't issue them a ballot for the election, but we will register them for future elections in Kitsap County. Fraud isn't really that common. It's one of those folklore things that you hear about. I think in the last 8 years or so, I think we've had 2 cases here in Kitsap County where there's been some form of a fraud that's been investigated further, but nothing widespread that would be some kind of a problem that would actually make big changes in the results on an election.
Great, thank you. Can I register, or can we register before we turn 18? And if so, how so?
Yeah, so again, that was some new legislation that passed where 16 and 17-year-olds can register to vote ahead of time. And this gets you partly into our system so that we know that if you're going to turn 18 by an upcoming election, we will send you out a ballot. So even if it's before your birthday, as long as your birthday is before the election, we will get you in the system. So to do that, you can go online to votewa.gov. So it's votewa.gov. And with a Washington ID, you can register to vote. You give them your name, your address, your birth date, and your ID number. And that will start you into the system. And then you won't hear anything from us until right before we activate you. And then you'll get information from our office on that. If you don't have a Washington ID, you can then print off the form online. So you can still go to the votewa.gov website and you can print a voter registration form and mail it into our office with the information it asks for, and we can also register that way. As well as you can go into any vote center or our office and do the same thing. So even though you're underage and you won't be able to vote in this election, you would still be able, if you wanted to go into one of our vote centers and take care of that.
Great, and when's the deadline to register?
You can register on election day. So you have until 8 p.m. on election night to register to vote.
I have a few questions regarding the importance of voting. Many would say that they're just one voice. Why does their vote matter in the bigger scheme of things? And some may also say we live in a predominantly blue state already. what difference would my individual vote make?
The individual vote makes a big difference. It lets you be part of your community. And a lot of times you don't realize that it is one vote that has made a difference in several elections. We've had several cases in the past where there has been a tie. And after all of the recounts and everything is done, it is still a tie, and we settle those with the flip of a coin. In that case, one vote matters. So even though you live in a blue state or a blue county or a red state and a red county, whatever it is, you are part of that community, and your opinions are reflected in how you vote and the things that you stand for. And it becomes part of your responsibility for being an active member of your community, to let the people that are elected know how you feel on things by using your voice to vote.
What if I go to college in another state? Would I still be able to vote in Washington?
Yeah, you're still a resident of the state of Washington or of Kitsap County. You can elect, however, to register in whatever jurisdiction you're living. Most college students keep their registration at home, their parents' address. It's a little more consistent because with school, you may or may not be there. Like as an example, with the primary being in August, and if you were off school and hadn't gone back yet, your ballot's going to be sent off somewhere to probably some temporary address, dorm room or something, and you're going to be at your parents' house. So yes, you can just maintain your registration at your parents' house or wherever your residence is here in Kitsap County, and you can continue to vote while you're away at school. You can also through again that Vote Law website, so that you're not having to have your parents forward that mail to you or whatever. You can go onto the website and print the ballot off for yourself to then send in to us. When you do that, that action actually suspends the ballot that we send to whatever your registered voting address is, and then your new official ballot becomes the one you've printed off. Make sure you sign and date it and put it in an envelope, and you can send it back to us. And it's an easier way to help you be able to vote.
If people register and then they don't participate in a couple of elections, is there a time when the registration gets archived, or do you have to participate to keep it active?
You don't have to participate to keep it active. The only thing that makes you go inactive is if we receive return mail that says you're not at that address anymore, and then we send out another letter that follows that up. And if we get that back, that puts you into a status of inactive. We have about 14,000 inactive voters in Kitsap County. And it's easy to get on the voter rolls. It takes a while to get off the voter rolls. But you're not required to vote as part of being registered. It's just, it's free and easy to do. So why not vote?
On that note, what are the states regarding voter privacy, confidentiality, and voter history in the state of Washington?
I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to ask that question again.
Oh, for the state of Washington, how does voter history and voter confidentiality work?
Okay, so voter history is, it's your information. So I'm not sure on what you mean about what you're asking on the confidentiality. The fact that you're a registered voter is public information. Your address is public information, but a phone number or an email are not public information. They're only used by our office to be able to contact you. Your selection to party in the presidential primary is public record for 60 days, and then it is no longer even stored in the system. So we have a couple of different, we're holding public information and we're holding private information in our system. And so depending on what's being requested, we have to provide some of that, and in others it's just used internally to help us communicate with the voters.
Thank you very much. That perfectly answers the question. I would like to move on to part 4 of the question. I'd like to hand it over to Allie.
Sure. So these are the types of things on the ballot and how you find information. First question is, how do I vote for local government, and where do I get these, like, the information for the elections?
So the information for the elections, I mean, the first place for the millennials is online. You know, that seems to be the best place. You Google what you're looking for. But the other one is we put out a local voters pamphlet, and we do this for the primaries and general elections. And in there, we will give you information that was provided to us either by the candidate or by the organization that has an issue on the ballot. So if it's a fire district and they have a levy, they're going to explain what they're asking for, how they use the money, and they're asking you to support them and vote yes on a levy. The candidates, you know, they give you a background about themselves, what they've done or why they think they're the best person for that job. You know, and everybody has their own websites as well that support or defend whatever issue is on a ballot. So between our local voters pamphlet and your use of using the internet to search it out, there's a lot of good information that you can find there. The state also puts out a pamphlet just for the general election. And so when you see our pamphlet, which will be mailed out here shortly, none of the state offices or federal offices will be included in our pamphlet. So our pamphlet will only include the county commissioner races and the 2 fire levies that are on our ballot. All of the rest of the offices you're going to find out of the state pamphlet.
And the next question is, besides candidates for office, what other items appear on the ballot?
So we have, like I said, levies and bonds. So school districts, fire districts, what we call special purpose districts. Any agency that's allowed to generate revenue through levies and bonds will appear on our ballot. So public utilities districts often will do technology initiatives where they want to put in infrastructure. So they'll introduce something like that. And then we have the cities and county issues, like you said, that are on there as well. But it's just we have also advisory votes. Advisory votes are something that's kind of confusing for some people because they ask you questions about should Washington State continue to offer tax discounts to these types of companies, and what those are what the advisory votes are based on are decisions that your representatives make regarding Washington's giving tax credits to different programs and things. And these are all functions that happen down in Olympia, but there was a vote of the people back about 6 years ago or so where the opinion was that all of that information should be shared with the voters, and then the legislature should get the opinion of the voters on how they feel about those things. As far as I'm aware, none of the advisory votes have actually changed the decision that was made by the state. So the voters have answered to the best that they can on their opinion on these advisory votes, but it hasn't changed the outcome of any of those decisions that were made.
Great. And what advice do you have to helping us get more people serious about voting?
That's one we struggle with because it's a personal thing for a lot of people. How do you get somebody passionate about wanting to invest a little bit of time to become involved in the community? And I think the best way to approach it is just to say that the decisions that are being made by these people are decisions that are going to impact you in one way or another. They're going to impact your family. They're going to impact you. And so you'll hear, you can't complain if you don't vote. And, those are good statements to make to people, to say that, really you have an opportunity to have a say in these things that you don't like. And the best way to have that say is to use your voice and cast a vote. A lot of the races that don't get the attention are the ones that make the most difference. You're voting for school board members that are making decisions on what the school board's going to do and the curriculum that they're passing. You're voting on fire commissioners that are managing a fire district and determining what kind of services ultimately they're going to support and fund that are going to be part of that community. You're voting for things that the library wants. You're voting for city council people, which are people that are actually making a direct impact on your finances as far as how much money they're going to collect in taxes and things like that. those are the offices that make the big difference, and those are the ones that don't get seen. They're really considered down ticket items because everybody's all excited about who's running for this state position or who's running for that federal position, and the reality is it's those smaller elections that really make the difference. And so when you're talking to people, and there's a lot of people with opinions out there, and they think things should be different, and just that's the way you impress upon them, is to say, if you want it to be different, you got to vote. That's how you can make a difference.
You mentioned some great resources throughout this interview. One last time as we conclude, where is the best information for young voters and people interested in turning out to vote for the first time? Where is the best way they can get information regarding that?
Always start with my website, Kitsap County Auditor's website. You can just Google Kitsap County elections. It'll take you to our website, and there in the elections page, we have all kinds of information and links to where you can get additional information. So we have links to the VoteWA website where you can do your registration. You can also track the status of your ballot. You can see your voter history. There's a lot of good information there. We will give you information about different things that are going on related to elections, like when the next election is, when ballots are being mailed out. You can follow our social media, but always start with your local county elections department. In this case, because we're Kitsap County, that's us. But if this were being seen by somebody else, I'd always say start with your county elections department. And then from there, you'll find your passions or your candidates or your causes, and they'll have a whole lot more information that they're going to want to share with you about the issues that they're trying to get passed. But to get things started, always go to the source. And the same thing, if there are questions, there's rumors that people will hear about elections, or you'll hear stories and things like that. The best place to get those answers as well is to contact our office. We can dispel misinformation a lot faster than you're going to find on Google or anything else. So we always encourage people, if they've got questions about what's happening in Kitsap with elections and security and all of that, we are a source for that. I guess this is also probably a good time to say that, you don't have to be a registered voter to come into our office to tour our facility, but we make the facility available to anybody. It's always fun to watch it during a live election when the ballots are moving around and we're going through the processing, and then we can explain to you what we do in the background that makes an election happen, and all of the work that it takes to get us to the point where we can ultimately hit the button at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night and have it give us those first results. But it has made a lot of people understand better what the process looks like, and they feel a lot more comfortable with what we do and the fact that the votes are, exactly as the people wanted.
Speaking of process, can you just talk a little bit about that at 8 p.m., what's happening then, and how many people are working? And also in a lot of other states that have in-person voting, there's a lot of talk right now about volunteering at the polls. Are there opportunities for people in Kitsap, where we have all mail-in voting, to participate in some other way?
Yeah, so the polls that they reference, so in our case, we have 3 voting centers that are dispersed around the community to assist voters that might need last-minute assistance. We have hired about 120 election workers for this cycle. Washington state law prohibits us from having volunteers. So all of the election people that we've hired for this have gone through a background check and have received additional training ahead of starting the functions that they're going to be doing. But on election night at 8 o'clock, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. So every ballot drop box that we have in the county, there's 23 of them, have 2 people from our office at each box. So every time that a worker is in the presence of a ballot, there's always 2 people with that ballot at all times. So we send out groups of 2 to all 23 boxes, and they're there to secure that box at 8 o'clock when the election is officially closed. And so we have those teams out there doing that. And then in our office, we have people that are still counting ballots because we've been receiving ballots for about 18 days or so. And we will have had ballots that have come in earlier in the day from the post office, as well as ballots that we've taken out of the boxes earlier in the day. So there's a lot of activity happening in the background with all of the sorting, organizing, verifying of signatures, everything that goes on towards getting those ballots counted. And then in the tabulation room, that's kind of where everybody's standing around waiting because the system locks us out from being able to see the results of the election until 8 p.m. And then at 8 p.m. we can open up the machine for results, and it gives us that first reading that we then report out about 15 minutes later. So there's a lot of people from the press that are here just to get the results hands-on. Kind of a throwback to some older technology, because for the amount of time it takes them to come wait for it from us, they could be sitting at home and they'd see the results online about as fast. So there's a lot happening. And then after the election, we're here for about 4 more hours or so. It's usually midnight on election night, where we're bringing in all of those ballots from the boxes. We're organizing things for the next morning. We're starting to process ballots that have come in that day, so that everything's ready for the rest of the staff that comes in the morning. That'll start the process all over again of verifying signatures and opening up ballots and starting them back through the tabulation equipment. There's a lot of activity happening here on election night.
Do any of you have other questions?
I do. Do you think voting is a citizen right or a duty?
That's a really good question. It is a right of every citizen in the United States to be able to vote. But I think that a lot of people take advantage of that or take it for granted because they don't exercise their right to vote. I think that being involved in your community, it is your duty to vote, that you owe it to the place that you've invested in, that you're living in, to be part of that. But it's interesting that there are places where they risk their lives to vote, and we don't have to do that here. We mail you the ballot. You don't have to go anywhere. We give you 18 days to fill it out and get it sent back. You don't have to stand in long lines in the cold or the rain or whatever it is. That is where we struggle, is that you look at voter turnout, and I'm excited to tell you that I'm expecting 85% turnout for this election. But at the same time, I'm telling you that I'm okay that 15% of those people that are registered in this county aren't going to vote. And I wish that every election were 100% turnout. But the reality is it's not. And so we look at these turnouts, and for the primary, we had 52%, which was great for a primary, in the summer, getting people to vote. But, it's a right that they don't exercise. So it's a great question. It's a challenging question because, both ways is the right answer, but it's unfortunate that there's not more people out there that understand what voting really means.
With that, this concludes Voting 101, Making Your Vote Count, recorded by Bremerton-Kitsap Access Television. The League of Women Voters would like to thank Paul Andrews for taking the time to get involved in this informational interview.
Thank you.